I remember the first time I got a $0 commission check. When you're married with kids at home, and that wasn't a good conversation. But, you know, when you really look at a check that says 0.00, you look in the mirror. And I remember that day I said that will never.
It's kind of like a turtle cycle.
You have to really know your product.
Have to know your shit. Yeah. What's one piece of advice or one thing you would tell your younger self?
You're not supposed to do it alone. Asking for help doesn't show weakness. It actually shows wisdom. If you don't write it, no one can read it. If you don't host the podcast, someone can't listen. Someone can't hear it. Someone can't be healed by it because you never did it.
So, hey, Dan, nice having you on, man. Tell the audience, what do you do? What are you about?
So, Dan Russell, I'm the Vice President of Sales for Trion. We do payroll, HR, benefits for, now about a little over 1 million employees across the globe. Wow. It's great, man. It's a fun time to be in the industry and get to help people.
You Trion guys dress so good, man.
You know what, man? It's
always,
tough.
dude.
It is.
It's
tough.
like a competition over there.
It is.
I
man.
swear.
Well, listen. One day I showed up to the office and I was in a sport coat and I thought, pretty professional. And our CEO looked at me and said, "What? Casual Friday? But nobody coming in today." I was like, "Okay." And it's the last time I dressed down even a little bit. That was Craig, actually. Craig. So yeah. But yeah, keeping up with Bonner, Dave, Craig.
Yeah,
it's a full-time job.
How long you been at Trion for?
So they acquired my PEO that I owned almost 7.5 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the...
I didn't know that. That's cool. What was the PEO?
So I actually owned a PEO called Chorus HR. And, and just like anybody, right, you have that shot and that chance to start your own and do your own thing and put your touch on it. And we had a nice run and we were growing real rapidly. And when I got the opportunity to sit down and talk with, Dave, Craig, Bonner over at Trion, I really looked at what they had built. And I just had to recognize it would have taken a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of luck to even catch up to what they had built. So I remembered, what you learned back in elementary school. If you can't beat them, join them. And I would hope they would say probably one of their best decisions as well. But together, we've been able to build something pretty cool.
It's cool, man. So what was your, just trying to back up and give kind of the story. So what were you doing before you started the PEO?
Yeah, ironically, I was in the mortgage banking industry. Okay. And, I had stumbled into that. I always was in sales. That was always a cool thing. And, mortgages, I really enjoyed helping people. That's always been the premise of my career and just, I say the catalyst. If I'm not helping people, money's cool. The awards and all that stuff are cool. But at the end of the day, if you're not doing it for the right reason, why do it? So mortgages was always cool for me because I always saw it as it's the biggest investments most people ever make in their life. Yeah. For many, it's their dream. And, for a lot of people, they were very uneducated for years about how to do it. And so years ago, I had a chance to do that. I became one of the best in the country at that. And then 04, 05 hit. And, one of the things in that career path that was always maybe not so much fun is you knock it out of the park for somebody. They become your client. They love you. They want to continue to work with you. And there's really no way
there's
to
nothing else to do, right?
Right. If I get your mortgage,
refinance, I guess. Or?
Right. But I mean, there was a time I was getting people 2.75 on their 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and they're hugging me, and I'm never going to have you as a client again. Yeah. So that was always tough because it still was transactional, and I've always been more of a relationship guy. So
they're always out having to hunt, get new business.
And it's different. So again, I had worked for Wells Fargo, Wachovia, National City, some big banks, and had a lot of fun doing it. But it was a fun industry because I had to cut my teeth. And like you said, you wake up every day and you have to prove yourself.
Yeah, every day.
And I remember the first time I got a $0 commission check. I had deals that had fallen into closing the next month or funding the next month. And I remember they actually still gave me a check. It was weird. It still said Daniel
Russell. It said $0 on it.
It did.
That's like a needle. It's like
Yeah, and when you're married with kids at home, and that wasn't a good conversation, I'll just say. But when you really look at a check that says 0.00, you look in the mirror, and I remember that day I said that will never.
It's kind of like it was like a turning point, like kind of like a lesson.
Very much so.
Yeah,
and you recognize I still worked hard that month. I still did everything I was supposed to do that month, but you really look and you see that $0 check, and you go, okay. So what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
You can cry about it. You can be upset about it. Still had bills that were due. But thank God that was the last time that ever happened again. So the zeros still show up. They're just at the end of another number now. So
that a boy.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you were in some mortgages, banking.
Yeah.
You start the PEO. How'd you make that transition? Like you just woke up one day and obviously tell me the story behind that, right?
Yeah. So, sometimes God forces you through a door. And, at that point with the mortgage industry, so much had changed. I was on vacation and I had bounced around National City. Then I went to Wachovia. And after Wells Fargo, and then I was like, oh, okay. And I was working for the fourth largest bank in the country, killing it for them. And I'm on vacation, and somebody called and said, damn, we got bought out. I was like, the fourth largest bank in the country, who bought us out? Wells Fargo.
The biggest bank.
I'm like, where I just left.
Yeah.
So it was one of those where I went, man, I don't want to play ping pong anymore. Rates were all over the place. And really, I said, I remember saying to my wife, that I couldn't help people anymore. I felt like people who really deserved a mortgage needed a mortgage. If the credit score wasn't what it was supposed to be, and if they didn't have the money in the bank, we couldn't help them anymore.
Yeah. Was this before or after the crash?
So it was right in the midst of it.
Okay.
Right. So you're talking.
That's when everyone tightened up.
Everybody.
Because before that, you could be a bartender and get 4 mortgages.
Listen, man, the no income, no asset, stated income, stated. I was in the industry through that. Like somebody comes in, you had a heartbeat, a pulse, and a 720 credit score. You're buying a $500,000 house.
Yep.
And the bad part about that, right, is you were competing against those guys that were doing that up the street, and you're trying to do it the right way. And I remember sitting down with people saying, you don't need that house. I know you want that house. And I know on paper, it's saying you're approved for that house, but you are going to be house poor. The first time something goes wrong, you won't have the ability to actually pay for anything. Yeah. And I've always been that way. I've never been that person trying to just close the deal. So, I got to that point where I said, I can't help people anymore. And so I really started to look around and figure out what I wanted to do next. There was a guy who, just as a shock, he coached youth football in Clarkston with me on a different team. And I remember, the name of his company was Work Life Financial. So all I knew was financial. And he'd always say, Dan, when are you going to come work for me? And I was like, well, maybe one day. And then, Dan, when are you come work for me? So then I finally, when the whole Wachovia Wells Fargo thing moved, I said, let me call him. And it was the PEO industry. And I didn't know. I knew nothing about PEO. I'd never heard of it. And he told me, he said, hey, my guys are doing a presentation. Go check it out and tell me what you think. I was like, okay. So I went, watched his guys do a pitch and
Amway or something, you know what I mean?
Kind of, right? I was like, okay. And I'm hearing these guys come in and talk about payroll, HR, benefits. I remember the next day he had me back in and he goes, so what'd you think? And I didn't mean to offend him, but I've just always been pretty authentic. And I said, it sounds like a really cool model. I said, but my only question is, what happens when you don't save somebody money? And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, all they talked about was, we're going to save you money here. We're going to save you money there. We're going to save you money here. I said, I didn't hear the value. I didn't hear, why is the person going to go with you if maybe, ADP is cheaper, Paychex is cheaper, whoever is cheaper. And he just sat back in his chair and he looked at me and he goes, all right, you're hired. And I'm like, okay. And what was so funny, and again, thank God the way it did work, he threw a binder at me and he goes, that's the PEO industry. Read it, learn it, figure it out. And that was it. So it was sink or swim. I had to figure out what did it mean to, for a business. And at that time, I think the hardest thing is when you haven't been a business owner at that point.
You went from B2C to B2B, like.
Yeah, man. Real quick.
Yeah.
And
totally different animal. Like,
yeah. And, I had a stint, even in my banking days where I'd owned my own, development company. I built some houses. I had some fun in the real estate game. So I'd understood a little bit of what it was to own my own business, but not to have, the big payroll, the payroll taxes, the benefits, the 401k, the workers, like all the stuff. And I'm just like, you had to learn business and then learn how to sell to a business. And at the time I was still pretty young. So I'm pitching to.
How old are you at this time?
Gosh, man, we're talking, I was probably early 30s.
You probably you still look young. I look young too.
Thank you.
I have the same thing going on, kind of. Not as bad as it used to be.
Right. It's a good thing, but not a good thing, right?
Bad, yeah.
Right. But when you're, to your point.
But when we started driving, I was like 25.
Right.
I'm 36 now. I still look, but like I look 12.
Right. So, and that's always a problem, right? When you're pitching that CEO, that president, because they're looking at you going, you're
use it as
the
a strength.
age of my
Use
kid.
it as a strength too, though. You can talk shit back a little bit, right?
That part, right? And I used to have a little fun, and people would even go, "How old are you, kid?" I'd go, "Old enough to know better, young enough to do it."
Yeah, there you go.
And they'd go, "No, but really, how old are you?" And I was like, "Why?" Because you almost found people trying to figure out.
They're trying to qualify you based on.
Do you know your stuff? And it was probably one of the first lessons in my career where I went, you have to really know your product.
Have to know your shit. Yeah.
It doesn't matter how old you are, because the moment you show someone you actually know what you're talking about, you are the most knowledgeable person that spoke to them. You're not trying to pitch them. You're not trying to close them. It earned that respect. So, when I started in the industry, it was a lot. It was, nobody in Michigan knew what a PEO was.
A lot of people still don't.
They don't. I mean, you're talking, we have 14% market penetration in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that you sit back and go, okay, so most people I talk to may have a successful business. They may have gotten there, but they don't know anything about our industry. That's fun. And so, I had a chance to really start to build a thing or two there. Went over to another company called DEM Group that had given me an opportunity. I ended up closing a lot of business for them. And then at one point said, hey, I want to do my own. One of my clients actually said, hey, I want to partner with you and, get started and start my own. He originally said, I want to start my own PEO. I go, you don't want to do that. He goes, well, I think I do. And he goes, I think I want to start it with you. And, I was grateful for the opportunity. But it was tough.
So you guys started that business together?
Yeah.
Were you more like sales growth? He was more like infrastructure operations. What did that look like? I'm assuming.
Not quite.
No? Okay.
Not quite. In fact, he, guy's a serial entrepreneur. He's a physician as well. I mean, a real estate guru. His hands on a lot of stuff and one of the smartest people I'd ever met. But it was an investment to him.
Okay, cool.
So
you were running it.
Yeah, and had some really cool people I got to, run alongside with. A couple people who came in and said, hey, I'll be the payroll manager / ops person / right. And this is where, small PEOs, I respect them greatly because I was one. Mm-hmm. And, you're coming in and to your point, you've got to be the operator. You got to be the owner. You're signing the check on a lot of stuff. But at the same time, you're pounding the pavement, you're networking, your relationship building, and it's hard to do it all. And I remember shortly before I'd come over to Trion, I had to turn down a 4,000 person group. Not because they didn't want to come with me, but because we wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Yeah.
And you had to look in the mirror and say, we're going to screw it up. And I'm going to win this client, and we're going to do a bad job. And it's going to cost me my reputation. Yep. And I remember the look on the guy's face when, I told him we probably weren't the right fit, and he respected it. He was a little surprised. But at that point, I had a chance to go over and I called David Stone, who to this day, just dear friend of mine and who I respect greatly in the industry. And, what was so weird was you never knew what other people had under the hood, right? You hear about companies and had definitely heard about Trion, but I called him. Called him on his cell and I said, hey, can we get together? And I appreciated the fact that, here we had been competitors for years, and multiple times he and Bonner and Craig had bumped into me and said, hey, when are you going to come over? And, again, I'm probably kicking myself. I didn't make the decision earlier, but, the one day I made that jump and made that phone call, and they brought me in the office, and the thing that he said to me still stands out to this day. Because I'm talking about my book of business. I'm talking about all the things I, think I can bring to the group. And he goes, Dan, that's all great, man. And, we're going to figure all that out. He goes, we want you.
Yep.
And that meant a lot. because, in my sales career, I've been blessed to be able to do sales leadership training for people. I've been blessed to do public speaking all over the world. And there's a lot of cool stuff I've had a chance to do, but I'm not a guy that you put in a box. And, they never did that. And, they gave me the autonomy to grow our sales team and our sales division the way that we did. We've got, in my opinion, probably one of the most knowledgeable, experienced, high level sales teams in the industry in the country. But they never really questioned how I was doing it.
They saw the value. They trust you.
Yeah. And they just let me run, man.
Do what you're going to do. Sell, get clients.
Yeah.
So your title at Trion is your
Vice President of National Corporate Sales.
Which means what? You just run sales?
I oversee sales for the entire, company, and I sell everywhere in the globe. Cool. So, with our recent partnership with Venture, it makes us the largest privately held PEO in the world. So we now do about $1.2 billion in payroll $58 billion in payroll for 1.2 million employees across the globe. And even that, it's cool because now for years, I was able to help people in Michigan. My clients are all over the country. And now I'm having conversations with clients that my clients are nearshoring their team members just as rapidly as they're hiring domestically now, which blows people away. But since COVID, if you think about it, 2020 pushed everybody into thinking we can do remote.
Yep.
Nobody for years ever thought about that. If I'm not looking at you, Corey, you're not here. You're not productive. I don't know if you're actually doing what I'm paying you to do. So COVID really pushed people into the mindset of, okay, you don't have to be in front of me. Now fast forward, and the challenge during COVID also was people started getting paid $20 an hour to drop fries at the local Coney Island. So it also pushed some industries like, Grubhub, Uber, Lyft, where now somebody who was making $20, $25, $30 an hour can make that delivering or driving.
Yeah, just working for themselves, basically.
Right. Yeah. So that segment of America got real difficult and competitive. So now you're seeing businesses say, I've got a budget for this, but to find that team member now, I had a client say to me the other day, he said, Dan, even if I can find that person at that pay rate, they won't stay. So people are now thinking out of the box.
How are you guys solving that challenge? Like,
we actually staff 178 different roles all across the world.
Okay.
So you're talking in Medellin, Colombia, we are the largest employer in the entire city. And you're seeing these brilliant team members, fluent in English, highly skilled, that are a third of the cost here. And they're doing extremely well where they're from.
Yeah.
So I think, and some of the clients are coming back saying they're outperforming their US-based employees.
I've heard Colombia is really good. What are some of the other countries? There's a couple.
You've got Philippines.
You've got,
awesome. Ironically, Kenya is another one.
Okay.
Yeah, and Kenya has a very high knowledge of our healthcare law. So you're seeing companies that are law firms. You're seeing companies that are banks. You're seeing manufacturing companies. You're seeing home health cares outsourcing 200 employees overseas. And you're like, wait a minute, what? Home health care? But you start to think, people are saying, how can I improve my bottom line while still not hurting my US-based team members? Because now with healthcare rates doing what they've done, last year was the largest health increase in US history. Most people didn't know that. They felt it. And you've got employers now saying, I can't afford it anymore. So, I want to hire somebody. I want to give them a good pay rate, but they also want good benefits. So now I have to give them that. They also want a 401k. They also want us to match that. They want more PTO than ever. You've got things like employee sick time, coming out, and
I know
you got all these people, things, right? And the employer really wants to do more, but they're still only able to sell that widget for whatever they can sell it for, and whether it's tariffs, whether it's other things now, it's just
disrupting a lot of stuff, right?
My goodness.
Our industry like crazy.
Exactly, right? So you've got business owners struggling more than ever now. Yeah. So They come to us, and I probably one of the best compliments I received a few years ago, and it stuck. Somebody goes, "You're not a salesperson." And I go, "No." I go, "In fact, that's always kind of been a grimy title for me, but it's sales. It's still what we do." Yeah. But most people have a bad taste in their mouth with salespeople. And the guy goes, "You're like a heart surgeon for businesses."
That's all of a compliment.
I was like, yeah. But at this point in my career, that's exactly what I am and what I do. If I'm not closing anybody, like you wouldn't go to a heart surgeon and you were in the middle of having a heart attack, or you had, the severe heart issue. That heart surgeon isn't going to close you on the surgery. Their job is to say, "Okay, let me make sure I do a thorough analysis, because if you walk out and I don't do my job, you die." And I look at it that way. And I look at it as, if I don't do my job and actually make somebody really take a good look at how they got to where they are they where they want to be, and look at their KPIs moving forward and where you're trying to go, you could die. Your business could die.
Yeah.
You could end up working yourself into the point that you end up divorced. Your kids hate you. Your employees leave you because you're so stressed and you didn't actually work in the business and on the business at the same time. And so I look at it that way. And, one of the things I'm proudest of is my client retention rate is 98.7. So I don't lose clients.
Because you're signing the right business too, right?
That part, right? I don't want to bring somebody over and it's the wrong fit.
So who is that perfect fit? Like, who do you like working with the most?
Wow. I'll tell you, it's probably the coolest thing that I have clients with 2, and I have clients with 8,000.
Cool.
And that for me is the neatest thing, because that person with 2 needs us. They need us really bad. But that client with 8,000 also is at a point where they're going, I don't know what I'm doing here. I still need some help. I still need help.
It's
right. So I still love sitting down with that person that has gotten to the point where they go, "I'm going to check my ego for a second. I'm going to humble myself for a second. I'm going to recognize the success that I've built and this amazing company I've grown, but maybe I can do it better. Maybe there's an expert out there that can help guide." And those are the people it's cool to have a conversation. And the ones that actually say, "I care about my people. I care about my team members. I really want to do more for them." Those are the people I love sitting down with, because they're not just saying, "How do I save more on healthcare? How do I cut cost here?" That's great. But when they're trying to figure out, how do I put it back into my team members? How do I, help them invest? How do I actually teach them why they're putting money into a 401k? We've even partnered with companies that come in and do estate planning for them and teach their employees about mortgages and things beyond what a PEO does. That part, that's fun for me, because then at the end, it's back to what I've always tried to do. I feel like I help people. And I remember my son, when he was in kindergarten, they had bring your parent to school day, and they had to talk about what their parent did. So I was just laughing, because I'm like, most people I know, my older children can barely explain what I do for a living. And some of them have master's degrees. One's a PA. They're like payroll and stuff. They don't know. So I really wanted to see what my elementary school kindergartner described what I did as. And it got to him, and, other people were describing their parents, and it was hilarious. Like, one kid goes, "My mommy does something in court." And teacher's like, "Yes, your mommy's a judge." It's like, "Oh, who's your mommy, by the way?" Just in case I ever get a speeding ticket. I was like, "Yeah." And another kid was like, "My daddy does something with computers." And I think his dad was like the vice president of IBM. And I was like, that was also that point. I was like, maybe I want to slide out now, but got to my son.
That's a really nice school.
Right. And so my son goes, "My mommy does helps people with their teeth." And at the time, my wife was a dental hygienist. And she was like, "That's right. Your mommy's a dental hygienist." I said, "What's your daddy do?" And he goes, "My daddy is a businessman and he helps people for a living." And I was like, "Yeah." And the teacher looked at me and I go, "That's it." And then after, a couple of guys pulled me aside when we walked out, and they were like, "That was really cool what your kid said about you. Like, what do you do?"
Yeah, then you close them?
And I was like, "I'm a businessman. I help people for a living." But when you're a kid at 5 years old sees that's what you do.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, that's when it's fun.
My son thinks I work in the North Pole because
Wait, how is
because
this?
he's 3.5. Because he thinks it's like because we do Lanya. You know, they got Lanya up in downtown Rochester.
Yeah.
Right. So we do the Lanya up in my office. We do like a little party every year.
Oh my goodness.
So he like correlates at least he was. Yeah. My dad works for the North Pole.
Well, I mean,
he just comes in and draws on all of my whiteboards.
Santa Claus. Yeah. I'm just saying, you do play that role. He does live in the North Pole. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah, I look just like Santa. That's cool, man.
But yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys are going through a lot of changes now at Trion, right?
We are
recently acquired.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. And I think first when you actually recognize what you built, that's really cool.
Yeah, because you've been part of the team really building.
Yeah, and I've always said, mad respect to Bonner, Dave, Craig, what they've done. David and Bonner, when they combined, first off, to just have the brainchild, the trust for each other, to take each other's PEOs and combine them, that takes a lot of guts. You also have to humble yourself. You have to check your ego, recognize, there's value in the two coming together. And then, bringing on somebody like Craig, who really knows the industry. And, there's 6 of us at our company that have owned our own PEOs. So, for them to do that was nothing short of amazing. And then to see where they had grown it to, even when they acquired me back in 2019, it was already a powerhouse. And then, again, to have the trust to bring somebody like me on, and we just then let it go and have some fun. So now to, really look up and go, man, we built something special that a lot of people thought had a lot of value. And now it's almost like pouring gasoline on the fire. Because, had you talked to me a year ago, I wouldn't have been talking to you about hiring globally.
Right. Yeah. And I've talked to you guys a lot. And
yeah. It wasn't even a conversation.
Now. Yeah, it just wasn't a thing, right?
But, not people weren't doing it. People were hiring all over, but it's not something we could have helped you with. Now we've got things like that. We've got AI profile testing where you can actually hire the exact person you're looking for. It's really cool stuff.
You guys using a lot of AI in your industry?
Where it should be used.
A little slow to adapt maybe a little bit, or?
You have to be in our industry.
Yep.
Right? We touch so much private, sensitive data. There's not an industry we don't touch. So, we have banks as clients. We have attorneys, like I said, as clients. We've got universities as clients. We've got everything. So, and you touch people's sensitive data. So there's times when AI makes sense, and we're very much believers in that. But there's also times where, we always think about when people call us for a customer service issue, it's payroll, it's HR, it's health, it's 401k, it's workers' comp. It's kind of a now need. And you can't AI that. A few months back, probably one of my coolest calls to say how cool what we do at Trion is, but how talented our team is. Maybe not as cool of a story, but my client called me on a Thursday afternoon. I was doing a debrief with Jacqueline, my executive assistant, and it'd be like you calling. I'm like, Corey, how you doing, man? He goes, damn, no time for niceties. I got an employee. I think they're dead. What do I do?
Oh, my God.
Now, we have a really cool call center tracked by Salesforce that he could have called, but at that moment, he didn't remember that number.
Yeah.
He remembered my cell phone. And that's where we try to be a little different. I answered. And at that moment, I go running upstairs. I grab our head of workers' comp. He was in the middle of something. I just said, Mark, sorry to interrupt. Got a client, team member, floor, potentially dead, go. First thing he said was, I'm very sorry to hear about your team member. Remember, it's a human. Remember, it's somebody's father, somebody's husband. It's a human being on that ground. But then he went into, do you have camera footage? Was he doing anything to go into cardiac arrest while on the job? It's a workers' comp claim. Is it not a workers' comp claim? Did you have any witnesses? And so he's going through all that, and he said, I need to talk to the witnesses before, the stories get a little fuzzy tomorrow. And then he goes, obviously you've contacted 911. He said, have you contacted the emergency contact? Guy goes, he just started working for me. I don't even know who his emergency contact is. Mark goes, no, we have that. Give me just a second. I've got the guy's emergency contact. And then he goes, do you know if he signed up for your insurance? He goes, no, I don't even know if he signed up. He goes, hold on, we've got that information too. So when we say rely on Trion.
Yeah, you guys are you're the whole HR team. Right?
That was it, right? And at that moment.
I think a lot of people don't realize how much they need that stuff until it happens.
That
or until they get big enough to where it's like a glaring need. But like,
got it.
Even small business owners, man, like if you would have asked me like 3 years ago, like what's your playbook? Where's your, onboarding documentation for, I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
You know what I mean? But like you need all these things. When you need them, you really need them.
You need them now.
Yes.
So that's where, again, that AI at that moment would not have worked for that guy. Right. At that moment. And that particular client was a cannabis shop. It had just opened up just a few months prior. They're worrying about the regulatory compliance with the state. They're worried about product. They're worried about training their team. They're worrying about all that stuff. And then in the middle of a busy rush, they have an employee die in the front retail area. Nobody's prepared for that. That owner didn't wake up that morning expecting that. None of his team members expected that. But even the grief counseling after, like we step in and help with that stuff. So it's like, to your point, you don't know you need it. And had you asked that guy, he had a laundry list of things that he knew he needed to launch his business at that time, and he didn't know that was going to be one of them. But when you do that stuff and you can step in at that moment, one, you help somebody avoid potentially $1 million workers' comp claim. You manage, unfortunately, that family member, just handling it professionally, making sure it's handled right. But those are those things where you're like, I need it now. And I don't want AI. I don't want a Chat GPT answer that may or may not be right. Mm-hmm. Because if you ask Chat GPT how you want to fire somebody based on what you ask, it's going to give you a couple different answers. And that answer...
and depending how it feels like what you're going to agree with, too.
You got it.
What do you think of this idea, Chat GPT? I love it.
Right.
Awesome idea.
And you can't get sued for that, right? And it doesn't stand up too well in court that, Chat GPT said.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, us having employment law attorneys on staff, that's cool. You call, you get an HR person that's what they do, who reports up to an attorney that's what they do. They don't do divorces. They're not, handling automobile injuries, but they handle that business law. So that it's, again, AI is appropriate at times, but it can be dangerous if you put it in the wrong hands, and especially within the HR, payroll, tax world. You ask it some tax questions and it gives you the wrong answer. The state of Michigan just doesn't take that as defense.
So your client base, mostly Michigan?
Oh gosh, no.
No, okay, all over the place.
Yeah, man. Again, it's when they say I've got, if not one of the largest books of business individually in the country.
Biggest book of Trion's yours? Biggest of Trion?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, and in the industry.
In the industry.
So it's cool. I have to earn that every day.
That's awesome.
But it's neat because, as our clients grow and expand, that was one way we started to grow. If you opened up here, then you had a location here, a location there, a location there. You then are in those states. But then now we've just grown as a national name, and, a name that people say, hey, let's quote them too. So I've got clients all the way from California.
Competing with like Inspirities, like all the big players. That's awesome.
I'm in California. I'm in Texas. I'm in New York, New Jersey,
Travel
Connecticut. Yeah, even like last week, I shot down to Nashville because one of my really cool clients who owns some really nice restaurants here in the Detroit area has a Nashville location, and they had 9 people signing up for benefits. And you jump on a plane and you go down and you meet those people and you look them in the face, and that's when that business owner looks and says, wow, you really are a partner. Yep. Like, we're not so small that it's got to be a Teams call or just an open enrollment link. No, those people mean something to them. And, I still enjoy doing that as much as the Teams and Zooms can be effective. There's something real special still about this.
Man, 100%. Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite place to travel?
Oh, wow.
In the U.S.? Like
in the U.S., well, shoot, I was in Nashville last week, and that place is fun.
I haven't been. It's cool.
It was much different than I expected. Cool spot. I'm still a Florida guy. I love water. I love to catch the sunrise and the sunset as often as I can. Too. That's my favorite. So Florida to me is still, we had an office in Aventura.
You guys have an office in Florida, right?
Yeah. And so, when you get down there, neat enough that you can shoot up the coast and it's quiet, and then you head south a little bit and you're in South Beach. That can get fun as well. But yeah, Florida still does it for me. If I had a chance to go somewhere in state, I'm still heading there. Yeah.
That's cool, man. So I feel like Trion's always done a lot for the community, local.
Yeah.
You guys have anything coming up?
Actually, it's funny. Dave Stone and I were just talking today about just some of the different nonprofits we're supporting. He was working with one called Kids Talk. I've been working with one called A Courageous Voice. It's an organization that helps youth that are victims of sexual abuse. And, those are sometimes those stories where you're like, what's that have to do with payroll and HR and benefits? And it doesn't. It has to do with our community. And that's one of the things, again, I think that we've all always been aligned with. It's cool to say you're one of the largest businesses in Michigan and the success, but if you can't stop and remember your community, you see people like Jenny Brown over at Dutton Farms, like who's been one of our clients for the longest time. You want to continue to support people like that because they're actually making that impact in the community. So yeah, we've always been aligned there, and we continue to try to be that group, even if it's with the chambers.
I see you at the chamber all the time.
Yeah.
I went down to the turkey thing this year, shot some videos.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's important because a lot of times people forget they want a chamber when they want a chamber, but they forget that, people will stop supporting a chamber. And, we've got some amazing chambers in this community from Troy, Auburn Hills, Birmingham, Bloomfield, and, the Chaldean Chamber of Commerce. I mean, so we're partnered with so many of those different groups where, they're already out there making an impact for small, medium-sized business owners, that's our heart and soul. So
it was funny with the turkey Thanksgiving thing you guys do. So I was talking to Matt Bellatini and I'm like, when is that? He's like, next week. And I'm like, who's recording it? He's like, we don't really do that. And I'm like, you guys, I was like, we're recording this. I was like, I'll be down there next week with Chris. He's like, okay, thanks. But it just shows me that like Trion's not doing it strictly for like PR or like to look good. You know what I mean? Like it's just doing it because it's the right thing. You know what I mean?
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Because
I was a marketing guy. I'm like, we need to document this. I need Lomas Brown talking about how cool you guys are with the turkey. This is great. And it actually turned out pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
But
and Lomas, one of the best people
he's
in the
awesome.
world.
Yeah, he's great. But super, super nice dude. But yeah, it was just like, you guys just really do it because it's like the right thing to do, which is cool.
Right. And I think a lot of times people forget, and success can do that. But I sat on the board for a long time for a group called Covenant House, and it's a homeless shelter for youth across the country. And every year they do something called the Executive Sleep Out. And I remember a dear friend of mine, Katie Coleman, owns Bowman Chevrolet. She goes, Dan, you're going to come sleep out with me. And I go, okay. And it was one of those, yeah. And I'm like, all right. And I went home. I'm like, hey, honey, I'm going to go sleep in a box for homeless kids. And she's like, okay. She's like, you don't even camp, Dan. And I was like, oh, I didn't think that through. But you go down and you see these kids and they look like kids we grew up next door to. And you hear their stories and you hear just one thing happen in their life. And it put them on this trajectory to be on the streets. And then you go,
it's like right down the street from us.
Right.
That's what's crazy, dude.
Right.
Like 15 minutes. It's nuts, dude.
Yes. And you think there's got to be an organization, to help. It's not federally funded. It's not state funded. And they call these kids the lost generation because it's 17 to 25.
Yeah. They're just in that gap, right? Like,
you see a 10-year-old walking down the street. You go, oh, let me help. You see an elderly person walking down the street, homeless. You help. You see a 17 to 25-year-old, you make all these assumptions. They're a thug, they're go get a job, you're going to rob me. And you start to hear their stories and you go, oh, go get a job. Okay. Walk into McDonald's and they say, do you have a driver's license? No. You have an address? No. You have a phone number I can call you back at? No. I'm sorry, how do you get a job?
Yeah.
You don't. So people say, get a job. And then, as you just referenced, and I'm glad you're one of the people that actually see it and understand it, some of those people scanning your groceries, they scan your groceries, they get a check, they go outside, they sleep in their car, they're homeless. We don't know it. Person cleans up just fine and they smile at you, but they're homeless. And I remember one year, because they actually take you around and let you see some of the different things within the city of Detroit. And these two women ride around in this van and they help kids. And underneath Kobo steps on a winter night, if you go under there, there are more homeless people than you would ever imagine. And it's a little community and people look out for each other and it's just a way for them to stay safe. But these kids, this organization helps them stay there up to 2 years, and they stay for 2 years. They get them a high school degree. They then can help them with college. And there was a young woman the first year I went who told us her story of going from mom died, dad mentally snapped and left, and her and her brother ended up on the streets. Her brother was still on the streets. She found Covenant House, stayed there. They helped her get her degree, and she was now a phlebotomist at Corwell. And you hear that story and you go, yeah, I want to be a part of that.
That's awesome.
So, when you see that stuff and you experience it, you can't not help now, right? You see it, you hear it. Organizations like Hope Against Trafficking, we've supported them for years. They've been a client and friend for years, but people forget women who are victims of human trafficking, which is probably one of the craziest, just saddest things that still takes place in our world right now. When these
which literally happens in like Sterling Heights.
Yeah.
It's wild, dude.
And the numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
But then you don't realize, I spoke to the FBI and Homeland Security one time, and they said, Dan, we had it wrong for years. And I'm like, wait a minute, Homeland Security and the FBI had something wrong? And they said, we would arrest these women and then let them go, thinking we were helping them. But they walk right out of the police station, and the guy who's trafficking them is waiting for them.
Yep.
So there is no getting out. So when a woman actually gets a chance to get out, this organization, and there's so many other great ones doing it, not publicly funded, privately funded, they're helping these women. They help them stay there for 2 years, get their life skills back, become employable, and help them get homes and things like that. Like the fact that Trion gets behind that stuff, that's my heart, because to your point, there's some stuff you can go out there and do and it looks real good for PR, but when you get a chance to really impact the world, that's what we get to do.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Super cool. Very cool stuff. I guess if just a question kind of in wrapping this all back and kind of all up, if you could go back, and we're not going to call it sales career because you don't like the term sales, but
Yeah.
I call it growth, right?
Yeah.
Like you're definitely in like a growth focused role, right? Which is like similar to like how I agree with you kind of too. Like I don't want to be labeled as like a sales guy, but like everything's about like, hey, growth,
Right.
let's grow a company, right? So your growth role, if you could go back to, the beginning of your career, what's one piece of advice or one thing you would tell your younger self?
I think the first thing would be you're not supposed to do it alone, right? Asking for help doesn't show weakness. It actually shows wisdom. I think we are so often raised to have it all figured out. Whether it's a little boy or a little girl trying to show mom and dad, I got it. And then high school, college, I got it. And I'm old enough and I can live my own life. And we just have this false sense of we're supposed to know everything. We're supposed to be able to do it on our own, the grind, the hustle, and it's a facade, and you look up and you recognize whether you lose a parent, whether you start to see life in a different perspective, you recognize the value of time, moments, people. And you recognize there are some great people who are willing to help if you ask. There's a lot of wisdom if you listen. But again, if you keep trying to do it by yourself, you go so much further together. And so I think that was something for years, especially because when you are in that growth sales, trying to do it, there's some competition to it. But when you recognize, check your ego at the door, somebody else is doing something right, somebody else is doing something different. It's not right or wrong. It's just different, and trying to learn people's different perspectives and, recognizing everybody's not supposed to always think the same. And I think especially in our world now where there's so many reasons to be divided, I've always been a person to try to figure out how we can all come together and learn from each other and just recognize our differences as really neat things and not a reason to not come together. And I just think so often, the more you ask questions, for years, I had a immaturity of if I sat in a room and maybe you asked me about something, a show, and I was supposed to know, I almost was, oh yeah, Corey, yeah. No, I heard about it. I saw it.
It's great. I loved it.
And I hadn't heard about it.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it. And a few years back, as I just got older, I flipped it. And people's reactions sometimes are really funny because they're like, oh man, have you seen that show? And I'm like, no. And they're like, what? I'm like, no. Can you tell me about it? They're like, bro, you haven't seen Breaking Bad? And I'm like, no.
It's a great show.
Walking Dead? No. Suits? No. And they're like, man, what do you do? And I'm like, I have it. Can you tell me about it? And I will ask now. I'll stop and somebody will say something and it will be something I don't know. And I'll go, I'm sorry, I don't really know what that is, or I don't know that. And sometimes I will tell you, it will be something that maybe is very simple to some people, maybe something I just didn't learn as a kid or no one ever taught me. And somebody will say something and I'll go, hey, what does that mean? And they'll look at me and go, what? I'm like, I don't understand. Can you help me understand? And I've grown so much doing that.
It's awesome, dude.
Asking people and just saying.
Yeah, because think about how often people just act like they know something, or it just, they'll just let that blow over.
Yeah. And you lose there, right? I've sat in boardrooms where I was so dead set on making sure everybody heard my voice and knew that I knew what I was talking about. And then I recognized sometimes the smartest person in the room is the quietest one because they're willing to listen and they're not trying to interject and one up everybody else and show everything they know. They're willing to actually listen to everybody else speak and then speak when it's time. And, when God humbles you and gives you an opportunity to just listen and learn and you see the growth that comes from it, it's a cool process. But yeah, my younger self, I would I tell him to have a little more fun, not to be so tough on himself. But again, asking for help, really not seeing that there ever is such a thing as failure, only learning. It's hard out there, right? Whether you're building your own business. I mean, even like what you do, doing a podcast, starting a business, the vulnerability, the opportunity to fail, the chance someone won't listen, the book someone writes and they worry somebody won't read it. Well, if you don't write it, no one can read it. If you don't host the podcast, someone can't listen. Someone can't hear it. Someone can't be healed by it because you never did it, because you just convinced yourself of all the people that wouldn't listen, not the one person that could or would or should. And, I think that's so hard, especially for business owners, because we're that small percentage that jump. We're that group that you jump when it doesn't make sense and you fail.
It's crazy just enough.
Yeah.
Just enough of crazy.
Just enough.
Just enough of crazy.
But, again, just like you said with your son at home, I'm blessed to have 6 kids, 2 grandkids, awesome, and they're always watching. Yeah. They're watching you, they're learning from you, and you just hope that, when they grow up, whatever their jump is, they saw dad jump and they're not scared to.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say or share about anything?
Man, I just, first, kudos to you, man.
Thanks, bro.
Because you're making an impact. And, first and foremost, this part of it, man, like I said, so many people don't do this.
You're getting started, right? Like just doing it.
Yeah. I mean, and
it's got to do it.
It's that first book. It's that first song. It's that first podcast. It's launching that business. You are inspiring people, right? And like I said, your son at home, your kid, but your friends, business owners who know you, who have seen you grow over the years. I know some of your partners. I mean, people like Dan Dulka. I mean, love that guy. You watch and see what he's done over the years. And, you watch and there's not enough of you and I. So first, I'm going to tell you, keep doing it.
I appreciate it, dude. Thanks for being on too, man.
Now, listen, it's an honor to be on. And again, any chance we get to do this, that's probably the last thing I'd say to people. Like, just remember, God's given us one life and we get to do this. It's not something we have to. When we change our perspective of, I have to go to work, I have to go to my kids' thing, no, we get to. There are people that would give anything to get to
100%
host a podcast, to be in a studio like the one you're in today, to, get to have the opportunity to have the careers that we have, the families we have. You know, I'm extremely grateful that my wife and kids have allowed me the chance to grow and develop into who I am. But, you know, God's given us some really cool opportunities that we get to do things. So, you know, when we make the most of it, it's amazing the difference we can make in the world, man.
But no, good talking to you, man. Lots of gratitude stuff to reflect on. It's sometimes you just get lost, right? And sometimes you need to talk to somebody like you to gain that perspective back and be like, damn, dude, I'm pretty damn lucky. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm glad.
It's good stuff, man. I can tell you live in gratitude for sure. It's an effort though. It's not like it's a learned behavior. Like it doesn't just come, you know, you got to practice it, right? Like
that part. And you just said it. You have to practice it. You have to say it. You have to recognize it.
What are you grateful for? Like, write it down, dude.
When you are feeling that failure, when that business isn't doing so well, and you actually stop and you look around and you start saying, what do I have to be grateful for? What are the things, even right down to the first breath God gave you when somebody else didn't? There were people this morning that didn't wake up that had plans. They had things on their Google Calendar. They had something that they were expecting to do next week. They had something scheduled, and they didn't get today. We did. So when you start with just that, we get another opportunity. And then, you know, there are people, again, that would give anything to have a wife, kids, a career, a job, health, walking, things like that. You know, when you really recognize and start to appreciate the smallest blessings in life, then, you know, you get rewarded with more. And, you know, I think to your point, that gratitude piece just makes it a lot more fun with what we get to do. But again, I think if you lose sight of that, now it's that grind, it's that hustle, it's that, what are you doing
it's
it
beyond
for?
the hustle, right? That's like
that
the idea.
part,
It's not just hustling, dude. What else is there?
The moment I saw the title, I was like, yes, because to the title, everybody thinks that hustle, that grind, we got to do that.
For what though? Like
but that part, like for what? What did you do it for? Did you do it to?
A lot of people don't know either. They're just like
that part. And like you said, that's even the place to begin for some people. Why are you doing it? Who are you doing it for? Are you trying to prove your parents wrong? Are you trying to prove everything what somebody told you your whole life you were, that you aren't that? Because if you're doing it for those reasons, you're doing it for the wrong reason. But when you recognize the impact you can make on others, no different than, again, what you're doing, somebody's going to hear this podcast. Somebody's going to hear it, and it will inspire them to give it another shot. It will inspire them to start that business. It will inspire them to go back and have a conversation with their wife and try again with that marriage. It will inspire them to go home and talk to their kid, even though they failed over and over and over as a parent, but they'll try again. That's when we get to make an impact in the world. And, you know, when we get to do that, man, what a blessing.
Love it, dude. Thanks again for being on.
Absolutely, brother.
Bro.